Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hagerop, thank you for allowing me to offer some input to this conference. It's wonderful what can be done digitally in today's world. I'm sorry I cannot be with you today. However, this pre-recorded video enables me to do different things in different places at the same time. Some in person, some virtual, a dream for a politician. In these testing times, it is as important as it has ever been to discuss the future of journalism, and in an international context. There are many issues facing the profession, and they need to be addressed globally. 30 years ago, I was a journalist myself, working in radio, and it was already a tough job back then. This is all the more true today. Solid research and good writing are still the cornerstones of reporting. However, technological expertise, or at least an understanding for modern channels of digital communication, is becoming part of the required skill set. Digitalization has radically changed our entire communication culture. I would like to put forward 3 theses for discussion. Firstly, just because digitalization is letting almost anyone become a broadcaster does not mean that journalism is becoming irrelevant. On the contrary, the COVID-19 pandemic is underscoring how important it actually is. Our need for well-researched information and lucid presentation is growing as the volume of information rises, especially in times of crisis such as the current situation. We all need orientation. We all need a reliable basis for acquiring information. And we all need people to filter and organize the flood of information. Journalists play a hugely important role here, also as a counterpoint to propaganda, fake news, and conspiracy narratives. In my view, people choosing to enter the journalism profession are well placed to help make the world a better place. Secondly, journalism operates within a legal framework beyond its own control. In other words, it is up to the state to ensure that journalists are able to go about their business safely and independently. It is unacceptable for reporters to be threatened or attacked, and this applies no less in the digital sphere. In Germany too, we are tackling this problem. It is also the state's job to regulate, to set up clear rules of engagement that guarantee plurality of opinion and media diversity. Rules that help media organizations to secure their sources of finance on a level competitive playing field, by means of an effective law upholding copyright, for instance. The COVID-19 pandemic is another reminder of how economically fragile our media landscape has become in this era of digital transformation. For many media organizations, advertising revenue, which was already shrinking, has collapsed completely. This should encourage legislators to do more to create a media environment that can secure the viability of journalism in the future. I don't want a future in which people are restricted to news provided by Google, Facebook, and Apple. I want a future where I can read my local news or enjoy radio and TV produced locally by people who live in the area and know it well. And my third thesis is as follows. In the midst of all the change, journalism does not have to reinvent the wheel. The toolbox and value system central to good journalism are no less relevant today. Yet, I consider it important to discuss whether there are areas where adjustments could be made. An exciting debate is underway over whether journalism could be more constructive. This is not about journalism becoming less critical or being friendlier to the powerful or only reporting on positive subjects. It's about asking whether journalism could be more nuanced or approach subjects from a different perspective. Whether it could provide more context or shed more light on developments that inspire courage. For my part, I prefer news articles that take this approach rather than reports that only focus on depression news. As you often say, Mr. Hagerop, a journalist who does this is not like the constantly whining uncle who no one is interested in. He is rather someone we want to have around because he generates productive debates and conversations. We can't get enough of this kind of journalist, particularly at times like these, when the many changes coupled with the pandemic are creating one thing above all, fear. I worry when I see this fear being enhanced by hatred and hate speech on the internet. What we need is a culture of debate in which respect and common perceptions of reality are the guiding principles. Today, there are journalists and editors around the globe endeavoring to work both critically and constructively. But in order to change rigid thought patterns, we have to be open to trying new ideas and initiatives. This is why the Constructive Institute exists in Denmark, Mr. Hagerop. And you have already achieved great things. In my opinion, though one institute alone is not enough. That is why we are looking at ways in which politicians, journalists, media organizations, and foundations can set up their own constructive institute to drive the process of change forward in Germany. And we'd love to work shoulder to shoulder with all you in this. I can't promise today that it's going to work, because at the end of the day, an institute of this kind has to be independent of state aid and, of course, independent of state influence. Under no circumstances must a state interfere in the journalistic process. It only remains for me to wish you productive discussions. It's fantastic that so many people from across the globe have gathered for this conference. Thank you and stay healthy.